We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns, sort of, from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I'm joined, as always, by BGN's own film guru. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Johnny, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, in depth, man. In depth is a tough word today. There's nothing really about in depth about this game that I want to get into. There's probably about 5 things that I enjoyed from this game, and the rest of it was a struggle. So before we kick off, it's going to be a very quick show. We're not going to do even for us, we always say we'll be quick and then we go an hour, but we're not, because we're going to do 2 shows today. But I'm going to give 2 bits of life advice today, Shane, to start the pod. I'm sure no one's actually tuning in for film analysis this week, so I thought I'd give some life advice. Number 1, when you first have a baby, as I have had, 5 months old tomorrow, and you get the chance to go out and drink all day, which I did on Saturday, watching pre-season week 2 extremely hungover after being woken up at 6 a.m. is rough. So for anyone who thought this game was a tough watch live, try watching it with an absolutely banging headache and a severe lack of sleep. That was not my finest moment of watching film ever in my life. I think actually it might be up there with the worst. There was nothing I wanted to do less than watch the Eagles play, which is sad, but some of it sucked. In the end, I think when you actually analyze it, there are things that are useful. So there are things that we should talk about. It's not a complete write-off. Well, I think we worried that this week might be a complete write-off, but it wasn't a total write-off. But some of it just felt pointless. Like the second half on offense just felt like these guys aren't making the roster, and you can't even analyze them properly because they can't pass protect. There's no running game. They're running on first and second, then just throwing on third, and that's it. And it was very hard to analyze. So that's life advice 1. Life advice 2 is when you also have a baby and go out like I have today up London, if your pram gets shat on by a pigeon, that makes a very long and stressful day, Shane. So if I have some bad takes about players today, you can fully blame having to clean out a pram with bird poo everywhere, which is incredibly stressful. So if I'm very harsh on someone's day and someone tweets me going, wow, you were harsh on Terrace Marshall after that game, that might be why. There may be a short attention span today, Shane, for certain players. I may not give them the benefit of the doubt. So there we go. But except for that, life's good. Arsenal won their first game of the season, so hopefully the Eagles can replicate it in a couple of weeks. Arsenal also playing their famous rivals' first game of the season. So a little bit of mimicking the Eagles there, playing the Cowboys in a couple of weeks. So hopefully both my teams can get the win first game. But except for that, Shane, everything is great. How are you after my lovely parenting advice at the start there to the listeners?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, I've got to ask a follow-up question. And I think this is going to be very important for our American viewers. What is a pram?
Oh, yes, of course. I was forgetting. A stroller, isn't it? Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one. We had this chat in the Patreon, didn't we? I forgot.
I think it's a stroller, but I'm going to ask. It is.
I totally forgot that. Yeah, stroller. Sorry, we sometimes call it a pram.
Okay.
I think Krabby on the Discord gave a great summary of why, but I've forgotten it. Sorry, Krabby. He'll be gutted when he listens back. Was it something to do with Latin to push? Or he'll tell us. He'll tell us in the comments.
He'll probably be here any moment.
Yeah, there you go. So stroller. I think it is actually called a stroller, what we've got. But yeah, when a bird poos all over the other end of it, where his feet are, and you have to dramatically chuck him out, it leads to stress level that I didn't need in my life at 2 o'clock this afternoon. But there we go. Except for that, everything is good.
Yeah.
Let's get into pre-season week 2, Shane.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch this game live, so my almost 91-year-old grandmother is moving from the house she's lived in for almost 70 years across the country next week, which is interesting. And, wishing her all the best with that. She's moving in with the oldest daughter that's retired, so she's not in a house by herself, all that stuff. So hopefully that's great for them. But we were cleaning out her house this weekend and having like a big dinner, so I didn't watch the Eagles preseason game live. And then I pulled it up on my phone afterwards, and I was like, yeah, that was about as atrocious looking as I thought it might be.
Yeah.
I was really worried. I feel like I said last week on the post-game show that I was concerned the Eagles would not play Tanner McKee anymore in the preseason, and I think we're going to see that, and it's just a slop fest. And this isn't the greatest start to a film show to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. There's a bit of a, like, the Eagles absolutely don't care at all about this game, and so why should you? But please watch our show, because we're entertaining, and you can hear Johnny talk about pigeons pooping and prams and learn new words.
Is stuff that matters. There's a little bit of stuff that matters, I think. So basically, we'll just try and cut out anything that doesn't matter today. I think that's how I'd like to do this. And we're going to do 2 shows, basically. So rather than do one show, we'll talk about that at the end, but we're going to do a second show, which hopefully will have a lot more relevance to the season. But I think it's one of those things, you could just ignore it and say, don't look at it. But I don't think the coaches will ignore it. I think the coaches will take something from it. I think things like the cornerback position in particular, Fangio is basically admitting that the 3rd preseason game will matter. So, like, there is stuff to take away from it. But I think we're going to only focus on that. Like, with all due respect to some of the Eagles' depth pieces, there are certain people that may have careers in the future, but unless it's relevant to this year, I think we'll try to ignore it. So should we get into it? Should we start on offense?
Yeah, I'm in full preseason mode. I don't have clips put together or a notes document, and a byproduct of not having a notes document is I didn't have our opening script up in front of me either.
Love it.
I think I nailed that. I even got your Twitter handle, which you don't even have on the screen. I started, as I got to that point, I was like, is it 9? I feel like it's 9.
Nice
and
flowers, baby.
Then I checked while you were talking after that, and I nailed that. So, I'm ready for the regular season. I don't need any more preseason reps.
Yep, that I did not notice a thing, Shane. So, like a true pro, you nailed it. Right, we normally do 3 takeaways, but let's not. Let's just go position by position. And some of them will literally be, I have nothing, and we'll move on. Because there's a few positions that matter and some that don't. So, first of all, QB. Anything that you care about, my big takeaway was basically I think Kyle McCord looked a little bit more settled and wasn't disastrous. And I don't think DTR can have a career as a quarterback in the league realistically with his pocket presence. So I think it sort of just made it clearer to me that Kyle McCord, if they do keep 3 QBs, will be the 3rd. Unless they desperately want someone like DTR to hang around for the practice squad. But the fact they only gave DTR like 8 throws, like what can you really learn?
Who is signing DTR if they try to put him on the practice squad?
I would just let him hang around as a scout QB or whatever. And I think McCord did a couple of things nice. I think last week he looked really skittish. He had a couple of throws that were at least like, okay, you can see him like reading it out. You can see he's settling. There was one throw on my thread I put up. You don't need to put it up. It's not that much of an interesting play, but it was like a cover 3 rep, and he read the curl flat defender, and he got the ball out with a free rusher in front of him, and you were like, okay, he's at least settling down a little bit. The weird thing about DTR as well is he's just not run in 2 games. I don't know if that's by design to work on pocket presence, but yeah, except for that, nothing to be learned from the quarterback position. I think preseason is so bad if you don't even get to see an interesting quarterback. Quarterbacks make preseason interesting. At least the Browns got to see Dylan Gabriel. We just had nothing, really. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would only carry 2 quarterbacks on this roster. I wouldn't. There's no chance I'm putting DTR on this roster, and I just don't think Kyle McCord's going anywhere. You can get him to the practice squad, so I probably would do that and carry an extra guy somewhere else.
Yep. I think I agree with you. Running back, I literally have nothing. I have nothing to say. 0. They're not going to make the roster. Montrell Johnson, Keelan Robinson, AJ Dillon played like free carries or whatever. I guess it's interesting to note they didn't play Shipley at all, and they did play Dillon.
Yeah.
So maybe a little sign there. The coaching staff slightly prefer Shipley, but I think you could also say, well, they know what Shipley is because they watched him the entire of last year, and Dillon's new. So, yeah, maybe that.
Yeah. I think Shipley is their running back 2 and Dillon is the running back 3, but I do kind of hope they flip that as the season goes along, because I think Dillon offers more of what you want in a running back 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we were in danger of having like a roster prediction show. So we'll try and stick to just the game. Otherwise, I could talk about Dylan and Shipley again, but I won't. We would actually be quick this week because the listeners will be probably more interested as well in the second half. Receiver, I thought there was some interesting things. I sort of made up my mind basically, and I felt this way last week a little bit. So, firstly, Shane, I want to talk about Anais Smith very briefly because I think he's going to make the roster. I feel really mean when I say this, but if you've got like play 4 on my film thread and it's Anais Smith's touchdown, like tell me if I'm being mean. And there's a few from the Patreon that have just jumped in. And Krabby, we've actually mentioned you and we expected the comments. If you can remind us of the definition of pram, that would be great. And if you don't understand why I'm saying that, you'll get it when you go back. Right, tell me if I'm being mean here, Shane. Watch Anais Smith on this route, right? Is there anything of any interest that you can learn from that touchdown? Or is it the most obvious outside leverage? Because Anais Smith is lined up inside, the quarterback standing outside, he's funneling him to the middle of the field despite the fact there's no one in the middle of the field. Like, am I being really harsh? He catches it, fair enough, the ball's ever so slightly behind him, maybe. But this is where I struggle with preseason. I don't watch that and go, wow, he's delivering it. I doubt the quality of the cornerback is very good. Both his catches were just on slants. And that is, I think, for a professional receiver, as easy as it will ever get, running a slant versus outside leverage with no one in the middle of the field. Like, you don't see that on Sunday. If the cornerback's playing with outside leverage on Sunday, if they're blitzing, he's pressing. And if he's funneling him inside, there's a safety there or a linebacker there waiting to hit him. Am I being mean?
Yeah, no. It's the same thing as honestly the same thing as his touchdown in preseason week 1. He did nothing. It's just a walk-in touchdown. I would be more interested to know why the Cleveland CB is playing with such dramatic outside leverage on a cover 0 blitz. But
with no one inside, yeah.
To me, I mean, I think your last receiver spot's going to come down to Darius Cooper and Anais Smith, and I think they're going to keep Anais Smith. And honestly, I will try not to overreact because it's preseason, and most of these preseason breakout guys do nothing anyways. But I think Darius Cooper at least offers something interesting, and I think Anais Smith is just not a good football player. I think he's a small, slow player with poor agility. So
yeah, I think Anais Smith looks a little bit better in preseason, and this is where preseason's disappointing. Is we're all like, Darius Cooper, let's go and see him. And when they've got backup quarterbacks out there who can't throw it and protection that doesn't work, you don't really get a chance to see anything. So it just becomes like a pointless game. Like, you couldn't watch that and actually evaluate Darius Cooper because the ball, I don't even know if it was thrown his way. We didn't have a catch on the day. So that was disappointing. But the one player I think sort of I'm done with was Terrace Marshall. And I did a Patreon All-22 watch along about, 2 weeks ago. And I said, wow, he can't catch. Like, he doesn't catch like an NFL receiver. And if you click on play 2, Shane, this is why film matters, not to be like the film guy. But play 2 is a catch. And I watched it and went, oh, God. Because look how Terrace Marshall catches it. He lines up to the right, and it's just really, like, that's not how I want to see an NFL player catch the football. You have to use your hands. He really, really is a body catcher. Like, a proper body catcher. And yes, he catches it. It's behind him. But the problem is you can't sustain catches that way. So then if you fast forward to play 6 on the film thread, this is why I'm mean to Terrace Marshall, and this is why I'm out on him. This is what I saw in the All-22 watch long he could be. The backup X outside the numbers. It's a back shoulder throw, and it's there. And he tries to body catch it again. And when you body catch it, the cornerback has less distance to go between his arm to knock the ball away. Basically, you need to extend so you can get the ball away from the cornerback. If you let it get into your body, you're basically giving the corner a chance to make a play. And the more I watch that, the more I'm like, the ball's thrown perfectly. The cornerback's not really got his head around. Terrace Marshall's watching this all the way. He's pressed a little bit outside, but he could get his hands up. And I know it's 1 rep, and you could say it's harsh, but I'm not sure you can coach that badly if that's just how the guy catches. And I don't want a backup X that catches like that. If I'm going to keep him or Johnny Wilson to back up X and try and do some jump balls, I've seen Wilson extend consistently more. Even when Wilson drops it, he looks like he's extending. Terrace Marshall just looks like to me his catch technique is wrong, and I don't know if that's fixable. But I'm going to guess it's not because it hasn't been fixed. And for me, I just watched that rep, and it's really harsh. As I said, I'm being overly harsh. It's one play. It's not going to define his career, but it backed up what I've already seen with Terrace Marshall. So I watched that, and I was like, I'm not sure I see it, basically.
Yeah, I'm with you. How many do you think the Eagles will keep 6 receivers, Johnny?
Yeah, I think they have to keep 6. If they're going to keep Mechie, which is almost certainly, I guess, and Dotson, then you've got 4. I can't imagine only Johnny Wilson being the 5th. Yeah. So I think it's going to come down to Cooper or Nice Smith as the 6th. It's possible they could not, but I think they're only going to keep 3 tight ends as well, and probably 2 quarterbacks, as you mentioned, and 3 running backs. So at that point, you're like, the skill players just looked extremely light if you're only going to keep 3 tight ends, 3 running backs, and 5 receivers. Yeah.
And Johnny Wilson, I think he did go down in practice today, right? Did you see that?
Yeah, we did see that. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what will happen with that. Hopefully, it's not a major thing, but
yeah.
So
and it's funny how this draft stuff works, by the way, because I was just googling to see how harsh I was on Terrace Marshall, and there's a couple of scouting reports from a guy on Big Blue View, Chris, who's very good. Big Blue View scouting reports are really good, and he mentions how good of a natural hands scholar he was in college. But that's the thing. Sometimes it just you don't understand why things don't translate. People always ask me, how do players bust? And sometimes it's like, I don't know. And I didn't read any scouting reports of Terrace Marshall. I literally just fired up for Patreon every target the past 2 years, and that was a huge takeaway that I saw. So it looks to me like whatever happens as he's got to the league, he's overthinking. Maybe one day it will come, and I hope it does for him. But I'm not sure it will be here this year.
Yeah. So do you have anything tight end or O-line wise you want to talk about?
No, there was one rep where Harrison Bryant looked like he couldn't run anymore, and then I literally tweeted it, and then about 5 seconds later, I tweeted a clip about the tight end position or something, and then about 5 minutes later, the trade was announced, and I was like, oh yeah, I just watched a rep where he couldn't run, so I was disappointed in Bryant because I liked him. He was the one that I thought would make it. I think the Eagles tight ends are a little bit concerning, if I'm honest. We'll get into that for another show, not the preseason one, but I don't see a blocker outside of Goddard. If Granson's going to make it, they're so light in line. And if Goddard goes down and you've got no in-line tight ends, you limit what you're going to do. And I would say, right, maybe the Eagles will go Bill style. They'll go 6-0 line. They'll go heavy personnel. But I don't see a tackle that's worth having out there either. This is not last year where you can play Becton and then stick Tyler Steen as the 6th offensive lineman. I think they're light. I think if Goddard goes down, I'm really concerned about tight end. And I'd be all for signing like a Jack Starl or a blocking tight end, because I just think the inline stuff the Eagles do, they pull their tight ends quite a lot. We see quite a lot of split zone. I just don't see them having a functioning body at the moment, except for Goddard, especially who can block in line. That's an issue for me, but nothing I saw about tight end. Should we really quickly hit offensive line as well?
Yeah, just please go give a day 3 draft pick for Darnell Washington from the Steelers.
Yeah, all day. I'd love that.
Like, you have so many picks. Just go give a day 3 pick for him, and I'll be really happy. Ben Van Sumeren, you think you could line him up in line maybe, and let him block for 12 personnel?
For what it's worth, literally saw this earlier and I forgot to mention it. Elliot Shaw Parks tweeted today that biggest takeaway from today is it feels like Darius Cooper's made the team. He's getting a ton of first-team reps, and BLG also tweeted something about how he was working with Hurts after. So if that's the case, and Nice Smith, the Eagles maybe feel similarly about his touchdowns, because he's not. I don't think he's making it over Johnny Wilson, and they're not keeping 7. Yeah. So there we have it. Darnell Washington would be amazing. Just get me a tight end that can move a little bit and block. Just functionally, just being a functional blocker. I don't think Calcaterra and Grant's are the functional blockers. And to be fair, I haven't given EJ Jenkins enough of a chance to judge whether he is or not.
Yeah, we got a comment here from Ben asking, what do we think of the Mechie trade? It makes me think Howie is going to move a wide receiver. We are actually going to do a Mechie watch-along after this show. So that one won't be live, but it will be out in the audio platforms and Patreon in the next day or two. So
Patreon will have the video.
Yeah, Patreon will have the video. The podcast feed will just have audio, which, we've done some of those before, but you can get the full video on Patreon and get it earlier. But we'll have some thoughts on Mechie after we get to watch him a little bit, because I don't think either of us has really watched him much.
No, I liked him coming out, but
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't want to talk about his college film. I want to watch him and then give you my takes. Obviously, we're always plugging the Patreon on here, but two things you get. Number one is obviously we want you to sign up. It's beneficial for us. But number two is we can't do the watch-alongs on the free shows because we're essentially just live streaming our screens and NFL Pro, and things can get funny, especially when it comes to the college watch-alongs as well. So the Patreon, putting it behind a video paywall is much easier for us. So we will put the audio out. We do want people to hear our thoughts. But if you want to see the actual video breakdown, I guess we're going to go and watch his targets from the past couple of years. And then I'll tell you my thoughts. So fair comment, Ben. I don't think we're going to trade a receiver for what it's worth because I don't know why anyone would trade for Dotson unless the Eagles are going to give up with him. Yeah, I just assume, Ben, it means that they want another receiver. So they want 4, and maybe they're not particularly happy with Cooper and Johnny Wilson being the 4th and 5th.
Yeah.
Because I assume he's making the roster and Dotson's making the roster. So it could be, to be honest, 12 personnel is going to die this year because there don't really tight ends.
Yeah.
So maybe we see more 11. And if AJ Brown's hamstring's funny, all of a sudden your 11 personnel might be weak and you think that Smith, Mechie and Dotson, if you need to play that for a couple of weeks, is needed. So I'm not sure that anyone's going to be moved. To finish up the offense quickly, because we are actually trying to be quick today, but it's a good question to be fair. Just disappointing with depth in general. Matt Pryce really disappointed me. I remember that show we did with Tommy Lawler, and he sold us both that this guy could start, and it's not Tommy's fault. Tommy was bang on. His numbers were good last year. Maybe he's just an experienced veteran who's not playing very, very well in preseason, but he doesn't look great. He had a problem with a stunt in this game where he ended up picking out the outside guy and not the inside guy, and you're like, what are you doing? How long have you been in the league? Don't let the interior guy through. There's no chance the QB can make a miss if he's hitting him a second after he's hit his back foot. And I really, really think tackle depth is such an under-discussed, underappreciated position this year. No one's talking about tackle depth, and I'm sitting there going, if Johnston might let go down, Shane, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Williams, I think, looked better again than Hinton, but Hinton came along a bit, but I've always maintained I prefer Williams. Keegan's been a bit disappointing, which is a shame because I'm a Keegan truther and I might be wrong there. I don't see a lot of tackle depth. The tackle depth might be kick Steen outside and hope you can survive with someone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, Green obviously injured and we didn't like him anyway. Yeah, maybe
this
Kendall
feels like the weakest depth the Eagles have had at offensive line that I can remember. And
taking a quote from my BGN article, Shane, that hasn't been published yet, so you haven't copied me. But I said it's the worst I've felt since I've been watching film.
Yeah.
About the offensive line depth. And Stout's a master, but
yes,
there's only so much you can do.
And I don't hate, I don't hate Drew Kendall and Trevor Keegan on the interior offensive line as depth, but I just don't think you have a lot on the edge, like you said, at tackle. You got Landon Dickerson banged up already, so that's questionable. There's a lot of things that just feels up in the air, and it's like, if you lost a tackle, sure, you can chip with the tight end, but Dallas Goedert's such a big part of your passing game. Do you really want to do that? So, and again, a lot of teams would love to have 2 all-pro caliber tackles and lament like, oh, what do we do if one of those guys gets hurt? Because their offensive lines are bad. And the Eagles is very good, but it's a place they invest continually. And this is the first time in a long time I've looked at the depth and been just like, man, if any of these guys have to play, I don't know how that's going to go.
Yep, and it's the Eagles. That's what the Eagles are. That's what they do. I think they're going to add someone. I think there could be more trades than ever before for the Eagles at the end. I think there could be more players signed. I think the 53, when it's announced, will not be the 53 a couple of days later. I think edge, I think safety, I think maybe corner, but I think they've made their move at corner and Bennett personally. But I think edge, safety, and offensive line and tight end could all be added to. I think there are guys that are on other teams, this sounds weird, that may not make the 53, that may have more talent than some of the guys that the Eagles actually have making the roster. Or maybe talent's the wrong word, but ready to play. Because, Williams and Hinton are not. Let's go on to defense. There were some interesting things on the defensive line. So I'll let you start. Anything that stood out on the defensive line that you want to hit?
No, not really. I'll let you lead us off there. The only thing I really paid much attention to this week on the defense was the secondary. So I'll have some more takes when we get there. But I didn't think Gabe Hall flashed as much.
No, he didn't. No.
As he did week 1, and so
I think he got hurt early though, so I don't know how much he played.
Yeah.
He came back.
That
but
could
you
be
never
it. I
know.
didn't track snap counts and stuff.
I think he played, but then comments can probably tell me. But I'm sure he went out after. I think he went out, and I can't remember if he came back or not. But either way, you always think when someone gets hit in preseason, maybe if they do come back, they're not fully the same. I thought Ty Robinson looked good on a couple of reps. There was one run defense rep that I really really liked. It was play 4 if you want to show it. The Eagles played quite a lot of 5-man fronts in this game, Shane. They had quite a lot of 3 big defensive tackles and then 2 edge defenders, which we haven't seen. We didn't see in week 1 as much. This is just an awesome rep because he dominates the tackle here with length. You know when there's a rep and you can see someone's in control the whole time. The second this play starts, Robinson is in full control of that snap.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's the gap and a half technique, if you want to call it, that Fangio calls it. He's maintaining his outside gap, but the second he bounces inside, he's got like a secondary look at it. Yeah, that was a really, really good rep. And then, I guess they're not defensive line, they're edge, but I'll bring them together. Azeez Ojulari finally showed up. He had 3 really good pressures. Play 5 was the best one. I've been in the C's Ojulari true fight. When I wrote about him, I really liked him. I thought he was one of the biggest steals of the offseason, and he's just sucked from what we read out of training camp. And I've not been there, but I trust the guys that said he hasn't been very good. But this was his best game. It wasn't just this rush. He had a couple of rushes as well. And both of them dropped into coverage, him and Uche, a couple of times. And they look pretty handy doing it, Shane. They look like they could drop into coverage as well. So I thought edge was pretty promising. I still think they're light. If Nolan, it's a bit like tackle really. If Nolan Smith or Jalex Hunt go down, I think they're light. But I think in general they were. It was more promising than it has been, which was good. I guess I'll tie in linebacker as well while I'm talking very quickly. If you show play 1 of the film, Fred, I didn't see much out of Campbell that I was desperately tracking. So I wasn't particularly. I watched Campbell a little bit and I thought he looked fine, but I didn't see a particular standout. The reason why I like this rep was that it's another one of those 5-man fronts, but they've got both edges dropping, and then they bring Campbell up the middle. It's sort of a free rusher, but I also think he plays with good quickness and he gets low, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. There was also a 3rd down where I thought he took good depth and made the tackle for like a 3-yard gain. It was good that he had an understanding of 3rd and medium and where to go. And Mondon definitely bounced back, and Trotter did what Trotter does. He had one missed tackle because unfortunately he's not big enough to make a play in the backfield sometimes, but his awareness, the way I think he reads the game, he's really, really good. I'm at the point where I don't really care who starts week 1, in all honesty. And one nerdy scheme note as well, Shane. There was one snap in the goal line, which I didn't record, but where Jahar Campbell was lined up at off-ball linebacker and then rotated down to edge just before the snap. So I think we all knew he was going to do it anyway this year, but it was cool to just have confirmation of, when people say about lining up at edge, that's why. He's not going to suddenly become an edge rusher. Although with the Eagles' edge depth and Trotter playing well, wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that actually it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world to play Campbell more at edge this year if you think Trotter can start. But anyway, that's all I've got for defensive line and linebacker that I particularly watched carefully. Should we get into the secondary? That's probably the most important part of the game, I would say. So tell me what you saw first. I mean, I'll give you my thoughts after as well.
Yeah, so I did an All-22 watch-along for Patreon for Andrew Makuba, which was a little rough because NFL Pro doesn't display preseason, and so I couldn't filter by player, and I also could not get the front and back views back-to-back, so it was a little bit of a mess jumping through plays, but we got it done. So 20 minutes watching every snap, I think, unless we missed one, and I thought he looked good. I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me is if you could get, if you could combine Sidney Brown and Andrew Makuba, it would be a really good safety, because Makuba doesn't have that killer instinct against the run that Sidney Brown has. There were some times I thought he was late coming downhill, or he came downhill, but instead of looking to get involved with the play, he kind of looked for somebody else to make the tackle instead of getting in on it. I don't want him to have Sidney Brown's recklessness, but I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive coming downhill. But I thought he looked really good in coverage. The Eagles used him, they spun into single high, and there were reps where he was the post safety, the single high guy. There were reps where he walked down and played man coverage on a tight end in the slot. There were plays where he dropped into the flat after that spin down from into single high. There were plays where he stepped down into the hole out of into from single high. So he did a little bit of everything. A few reps, and I don't have clips of these because I was doing the watch along, so I couldn't record them as I did it. But a few reps that really stuck out to me. I thought he had a couple of really good reps in man coverage on tight ends, and he had one really poor rep in man coverage on a tight end where he got too far over his toes. He gets broken off outside, and he probably should have got flagged for DPI, but it didn't get flagged, and he ends up giving up a catch. His interception, I thought, was good. I mean, it was bad quarterback play because Dylan Gabriel throws that ball like 3 steps after it was open, but he comes flying downhill on the play fake on that one. And I thought he did a good job recovering. He swivels his hips and he looks and he saw a boundary corner is tracking the vertical threat. And so he immediately knows the next thing we attack with a rollout is the crosser. And so he found the crosser and gets attached to him and undercuts it for the pick. Now, it was a bad throw by the quarterback, but it was good instincts by him in that situation. So overall, I mean, I saw enough to say confidently that Makuba should be the starting safety to start the year. You do wonder a little bit how that's going to work in the run game, though, especially if Jacorian Bennett, which is who I think should be your CB, your other CB, because it's not Ringo or Adoree Jackson. I just don't think it can be either of those guys. If it's Bennett, who is also a poor tackler and not good in the run game, maybe you get into some issues in the run game. And that's something we'll have to see how they handle. But that was the biggest stuff that stuck out to me with Makuba. And then just that I think Jacorian Bennett should be your starting outside corner.
Interesting. So, yeah, I didn't really watch Makuba very closely for the reason that I knew you were going to. So I was interested in your take. From what I saw of him, you said sort of what I thought you were going to say. I still worry about the size, and I always will. I prefer him in zone to man. I think when he has to come down and cover the slot, I worry about him in the big slot world, the tight end split out wide world. I think that's tough. But I think he can do it, and I think they'll be able to hide him enough if he has to play early on, where I think he's got enough instincts to get by. Corner was interesting. Yeah, I thought Ringo actually played better, I'll be honest. I thought Ringo seemed to get a hard time online, but when I watched it, I wasn't that annoyed at Ringo. I thought Ringo was fine. I don't really know how to judge Adoree Jackson, Shane, because I didn't think he looked very good. There was one rep where he really looked just sloppy, but the coaches keep playing him with the ones, and it feels like he's going to start. It seems to me he will, but who knows? Bennett was a mixed bag. He had one rep on the goal line where he's so grabby, and I'm like, I worry about pass interference with him. Yeah. I think where I really, really liked Bennett, though, was there was a snap. It was play 3 on my film thread, where I said the Eagles were running a fire zone, because on first look, it sort of looked to me like it was a classic 3 deep, 3 under. And then good old Eagles Eric pointed out it's definitely a man blitz. And, you watch it play and you're like, oh, yeah. But I must admit, I was just watching Bennett on the play. And this is where I think his speed helps. He was a 4-3-ish guy, wasn't he? Yeah. I think there's a really big difference between just like speed. Like Ringo's got vertical speed. And I think if you're playing more like quarters, you're playing more like up and down, running vertical stems, then I think that's where Ringo's speed helps. This is where the other kind of speed helps. If you're going to play more like... Because basically, this play is a cover 1, cover 3 killer. Crossing routes just destroy single high. All you have to do is pair it with a deep route. Single high safety takes a deep route, and the corner's got outside leverage, and crosses are free just like routinely. That's a really good play for a cornerback. That to me is like a top play to knock the ball away with outside leverage against a receiver starting inside, running across the field. Like that play is against you, and it's not a bad throw. You expect the receiver to make that play. If the receiver catches that, you wouldn't blame the cornerback. You'd say that's based on alignment, and that's based on the play call against your play call. So that was a really cool play. I don't love cornerback 2. My hope was that the safeties and Quinion would be so good that cornerback 2 doesn't matter. And I think if DeJean is still inside and Quinion's outside, you could hopefully push some help towards the other guy. But I think anyone that's not talking about cornerback being a little bit of a concern is lying. Like Darius Slay was still very good last year, although hurt a lot. And I think the Eagles are, in my opinion, quite shaky in the secondary. Like I think there's going to be teething problems with safety, whoever starts. And I think there's going to be problems with CB2. And I'm not convinced the starting safety's on the roster. I feel like the cornerback is. It might be one of those years where they rotate and play a little bit of everyone. So maybe we'll see a fair bit. The only other thing I'll add, and I don't think I have a particularly good clip to back this up, is I think Mac McWilliams looked all right outside. I think, like, I'm not saying he'll start, but I said this in the film review. Would it be a shock if he's playing quite a bit by the end of the season if nothing goes well? Like, he looked better than I'd expected him to look, and I didn't think the Eagles would give him a chance outside. I thought the Eagles would just stick him in the slot, but maybe he's gonna play more than we think. And I'll just get this really quickly out of the way because people keep talking about DeJean. If you move DeJean to a different position because you've drafted and signed poorly, then that's really poor on you. Yes. If you really, really want DeJean to be your outside cornerback, fine. You don't do it because you haven't got an outside cornerback. In my opinion, a nickel's a starter. You play nickel all the time. He was possibly a top 5, if not one of the best, or the best, nickel corners in the league last year. I think his skill set far better suits a nickel. People talk about him being a safety. Nickel's practically the same after time in run fits coming downhill. Outside cornerbacks are not. They are not the same. They don't have the same responsibility when it comes to run fits as a nickel corner does. And I think if you move him because you've screwed up depth, that's not a good look. If I move DeJean outside, it's because I want DeJean to play outside. I'm not moving him because of what's going on elsewhere. That's just my personal take anyway. If he does line up outside week 1, Shane, in nickel, and McWilliams plays the slot or someone else plays the slot, fine, as long as that was the Eagles' plan all along. But from what I'm hearing, it's not, because he barely ever lines up outside all of training camp. So if he does get moved, I think that's out of desperation, which is a shame. And yeah, Ben, comment about like the idea of having him outside in base. Me too, but I think that's a non-starter because the Eagles are barely ever in base. If they are in base more this year, because they maybe suck a cornerback and they've got 3 linebackers they trust, maybe. I'm talking about assuming they play 90% nickel or whatever. That's what I'm on about. I think that's it for me, Shane. I think that's my thoughts from this one.
Yeah, I mean, DeJean should never come off the field. So if you're in base, he's obviously going to play outside or safety or a box linebacker or something. Like, he should never come off the field. And
yeah,
I'm not opposed to playing McWilliams at outside cornerback. Like, if everything else is bad, you might as well play the youngest guy, play the rookie, and see what he's got. Hopefully we don't get there. It just makes the decision to not pay Isaiah Rodgers $5.5 million look even worse, and that's something we talked about at the time. Like, it was, I thought they let Slay go to bring back Rodgers, and then when they let both go, instantly that became a position you circled on the depth chart and was like, I don't know, like, we'll have to see. And I mean, they took some reasonable dart throws. Like, you drafted Ringo. But you've seen Ringo for 2 years. You should have known he can't do it if he, in fact, can't do it. And, I mean, you take the reasonable dart throw at Adoree Jackson. But if none of it pans out, we're going to be sitting here, in October being like, man, I really wish the Eagles had kept Isaiah Rodgers, which was something that's not hindsight. It's something we kind of said at the time. So
it was pretty obvious, wasn't it? If they weren't going to do something else in the draft early on, it felt obvious.
Yeah, J-Rock says, I think it comes down to what the Eagles think is more important. If it's outside CB, then play DeJean there. If it's nickel, keep him there. It is unquestionably nickel. It is more important.
Joe Rock, he's never lined up there in training camp. We're now in, 19th of August? He's not been the outside corner in nickel. If you started the offseason and went, I want Cooper DeJean to be the outside cornerback in nickel, just rep him there all the time. You don't need to rep him in nickel. We can play nickel. He's done it for a year. Rep him in the position you're going to play him. And it feels to me like they're like, actually... And I don't think Fangio wants to play him there because Fangio's talking about they haven't decided until this week's game. So there's no way they went into the season saying he should definitely be the outside cornerback. Yeah. I think Fangio spoke yesterday and said the cornerback 2 battle won't be decided until... And he basically spoke about Bennett to give him a chance. Like, there is absolutely... he said he would get some plan. I'm actually reading Fangio now. Fangio said there's no plan to move DeJean to the outside. It would require developing someone at the nickel, which, is like... I don't think the plan is to stick DeJean outside. I don't think that's ever been the plan. I think if it happens, then it's a shame.
Yeah.
He'll probably be fine, by the way. I'm sure he'll be fine. It's just I don't think it's good process.
Yeah, it's just what it does to your nickel position. I think he'd be fine at the outside. There's nothing in DeJean's skill set that makes me think he couldn't play outside cornerback.
Yeah.
It's just that nickel is so much more valuable in this defense. But so yeah. Anyways, that is going to about do it for this episode. We did mention earlier, but I'll mention again, that we are about to bounce over and do a John Mechie watch-along, All-22 watch-along. That will not be live, so if you're a live viewer right now, don't wonder, where's the notification? We got to record that one and put it out. So the video will drop in Patreon later today. The audio will probably drop in the podcast platforms tomorrow. But if you guys are not in the Patreon, consider coming and checking that out. We have a $3 and a $5 a month tier. The $5 a month tier is what will get you access to the exclusive video content, the Discord, all of those things. So come pick up a free 1-week trial, and you can get our thoughts on John Mechie and a lot of other things. Andrew Makuba, I did the watch along in Patreon on Monday, I think it was, for Makuba, so you can check that out as well. But Johnny, any other thoughts you want to fire off before we get out of here?
No, if you are watching live, well played for staying with us. There was a few things hopefully we learned. And yeah, if you're not in the Patreon, I know we plug it all the time. I appreciate there's like thousands of things to pay for on different subscribers, but we can do some really cool stuff out there. I think it's our best work. And yeah, we try and be, there's lots of good stats, there's lots of good stuff, but we're big believers in the film is the most important thing. So if you want to come hang with us, we're literally going to go and watch as many John Mechie targets as we can until we understand him. And hopefully by the end of that, you can see us figure out our thoughts live. So if you're not in there now, even if you want to try it for a month and see how you feel, yeah, we can get into some, there's a lot of really cool stuff we've got coming on in the season. But if you are just listening to the free pod, we also appreciate you massively. And looking forward to actual, real regular season film.
Yep. All right. Well, we are going to get out of here. Like I said, we appreciate you guys and your support. Can't wait to get into the regular season. We got one more week of preseason left. So we will be back next week to talk about that, or maybe not if it's just awful, but we'll figure out a show for you guys. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time.